This is Frank with ING. He's our rep, and he's going to talk a little bit about budgeting. So hopefully we can all take something away from this.
Thank you. Hi, I have had the opportunity to be in this business for the past 20 years in helping people plan for retirement. And the number one problem that most of my clients have in planning for retirement is this topic. So that's why this topic is so important to me, and it should be important to y'all. So it's amazing how much time each and every one of us spend in learning a career, learning a job in order to make money, and how little time we understand and how to utilize the money that we're given, or how to set it up in a way that it can benefit us not only now, but 20, 30 years from now when it comes time that you're not going to be able to work. So budgeting for a lot of people is kind of a scary topic strictly because of that word. It means I have to do something. So we're going to kind of change it up a little bit. So instead of using just the word budgeting, which may cause tension, and we're going to simplify that and say we want to take control of our spending. Spending your money with intention is really the name of this presentation. How can we set up a plan to utilize funds in a way that's going to benefit us over the long term? So here going forward, we're going to be talking about spending your money with intention. So most of us have expenses, and we're happy from day to day if we can just cover those expenses. So when you're looking at the average person or average family making $54,000, how much of their money do you think goes towards taxes? Somebody throw out a number. That's a good number. 20% is a good number. How about housing? What percentage? What percentage of your housing do you think Americans spend on? What percentage of the pay you think Americans spend on housing? So, and on down the list: food, transportation, insurance, utilities, healthcare costs, clothing, entertainment. The average American or average family spends 101% of what they make. How do we do that?
Credit.
Right. So most of us either pay too much in taxes, buy a house that's too big, go out to eat too much, buy too nice a car, have way too much insurance, spend too much on utilities, healthcare, entertainment. We're a society of spending. We like to spend. And the government is going to try to give you all kind of incentive to spend, because what creates jobs? Spending. The more you spend, that puts somebody else to work. And if somebody else goes to work, what are they going to do? They're going to spend. So the U.S. government, in order to try to keep us at pay or at peace, want us to spend, want us to be consumer driven. They want us to buy a big house, they want us to buy a new car, they want us. But is that necessarily the best thing for y'all? Is it the best thing for you to have the next biggest house, the next biggest car, to try to keep up with the Joneses? And the answer to that is no. So the average American has 100% of his disposable income in consumer debt. It is astronomical how we as Americans believe that credit card debt is okay, buying a bigger house is okay, anything that we want to do is okay. That's the reason a lot of countries around the world don't like us, because we're such an opulent society. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, because the United States has been very, very, very good. So what is the definition of consumer debt? Well, Wikipedia says all of this. But it's basically, you're taking your salary and you're spending it, you're not saving it. You're not investing it. So everything that you do on a daily basis, the food you bought today, the clothes you wore today, anything that you're currently doing or using that's not going towards some type of an investment is debt. So you're either paying on it, you're paying for it, or you're going to be paying for it in the future. So it's very important that we understand that we spend a lot of time learning how to make money with all the different careers that we're currently in. Are we truly understanding what we need to do with that money once it shows up in our checking account? Okay? So you've got to look at it, and people tell me this all the time. I cover my bills every month. Okay, well great. You covered your bills, there's zero left in your checking account, or you threw another couple $100 on your credit card. Well, then the next client comes to me and says, okay, my air conditioning's out. I need to take a loan in my retirement. Can I take a hardship? Can I borrow this? Can I do that? Because you don't have anything left in savings. There's nothing on the sidelines to prevent those potential emergencies. And who in here knows somebody that's had one of these problems come up? You've got to prepare. Life happens. There's no way that you can avoid things that are going on in your life. So you have to be able to put something down in writing that's going to help you stick to a particular plan. Okay? You have to know where your money's going. If you don't know where it's going, it's like coming to work and not having an outline of what you're going to do that day, or not knowing what to do that day. You go sit in an office and do nothing, then you go home. You haven't accomplished anything for this company, and you haven't accomplished anything yourself. Well, that's all you're doing when you outline or just make a decision to take some simple steps to figure out, where is my money going? What am I spending my money on? And it's very important to do that, and it's not as hard as you might think. So the problem is, most of us nowadays are being told to use your credit card for everything. We're going to give you points. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you that. But you can't control your expenses if all you do is run in there and swipe a card. Swiping a card is so much easier than pulling 20 bucks out of your pocket and laying that down for a meal. So you go out to eat dinner, you swipe your card, and then you'll worry about it when the bill shows up. If you're taking $20 out of your pocket and paid for that same meal, well, what happens when you quit or can't pull $20 out of your pocket anymore? You don't go out to eat. So we've been trained to use our credit cards, trained to do things that truly over the long term is not beneficial. If you can set up some type of system where you're using cash, if the cash runs out, guess what? You can't spend anymore. So by setting aside and knowing where your funds are going, it gives you a great ability to have the money set aside to help you prevent the types of things that happen in our lives. And they will happen, believe me. I deal with this. I've got 8,000 different clients, and you would not believe the amount of times that people don't have $10 in their savings account or $20 in their savings account, and they're calling me to take out whatever they've already deferred into their retirement plan. And if you keep emptying your retirement plan, you're never going to retire or never have enough money to need for tomorrow. So spending your money with intention is kind of a basic thing. Where is my money coming from? It's very simple. You get a paycheck, the paycheck shows up in your checking account. You need to figure out how much money you have coming in on a monthly basis. Medical West takes all your taxes out for you, so you shouldn't have to worry about paying taxes. The only thing that you get is you have a net money coming into your checking account. You need to figure out how much that is. Not a very hard thing to do. The next thing to do is to figure out, where is it going? What am I spending my money on? How best can I allocate it to take care of my mortgage, my cable TV, my electric, my water, any consumer debt you're currently having, anything that you're currently doing or using? Write it out. It shouldn't take but a couple months for you to figure out where your money is going. But then you need to figure out, is that a proper use of my money? How many times a week am I eating out? How many people in this room eat out more than 3 times a week at night? More than 4 times a week. And that is amazing, the amount of debt that you're incurring just by eating out at night. So the ability to go to the grocery store, have an allotted amount of money, know how much you're spending that month or that week on food, can alleviate a lot of quick, easy going out to eat and swiping on your credit card. If you know you have $200 a month to eat out that month, well, this is what we're going to do. I got $50 a week. If I only spent $40 during the first 3 or 4 days and I want to go out to dinner, that means I'm not going to have to eat peanut butter and jelly for the rest of the week. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I love peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So, you just have to figure out what's important to you and how can you do the proper things to make sure you've got enough money to cover those emergencies that pop up. So once you come up with what you have, then you come up with what you budgeted, your expense-wise. That leaves you with a wonderful word that I love to say. What's this word? Not many people have that word. So it's very important that if you can figure out how much you have coming in, you can set yourself on some type of plan to restrict your spending. It's going to create my favorite word, which is savings. And it's not necessarily retirement savings. And we're going to go into that in a lot more detail. So, but you have to be realistic. You have to understand that things come up. You may have grandchildren you want to buy birthday presents for. You may want to have a holiday trip. So, and there's other things that you might want to do. And just, as far as, I need to buy a new car next year? Is it really that important? And this is a good story that I want to tell you. One of my clients came to me. He ended up walking away from his house because he couldn't afford to make the house payments. Just walked away from it, left it. Moved in with his brother. Now he's living with his brother, doesn't have a house payment, so guess what he decides to do? Did he put it in a savings account? Close, new truck. So I deserve a new truck. I don't have this bill anymore, so now I'm going to put that bill on something else. So he created another $40,000 worth of debt. And he came to my office and he says, well, what do you think? I said, well, have you already bought the new car? In the new truck? And he said, yeah. He said, well, then you don't want to know what I think. I said, you have to plan. You've got to set money aside. You can't always feel comfortable that tomorrow you're going to have that job, or that your wife is going to be healthy, or your spouse is going to be healthy, or your kids are not going to be sick. You have to have a budget in order to, or you have to understand where your funds are going to be able to accomplish your long-term goals. So there are some essential things you have to have. You've got to have a place to live, you've got to have transportation, and you have to eat. How you manage those three things, because those are the three biggest expenses you're going to have, and we all know that. Those are the basic necessities: food, clothing, and shelter, and transportation. So when you're looking at your house, have you refinanced lately? What is your ability to refinance? Do you currently have an 8% interest rate when you could drop it down to a 4% interest rate? Are there things that you can do to better manage these large expenses that you have? So, but just because you can refinance, if you've got a 30-year mortgage at a 6% return, and you can get a 30-year mortgage refinanced, you can now go from a 30-year mortgage at 6% down to a 15-year mortgage at 4% and have the house paid off 15 years earlier with the exact same house payment. So just because you can refinance your house at a lower rate doesn't mean you should automatically refinance it for another 30 years, because you may not want to be paying for this house 30 years from now. So my number one goal for all my clients is to set up a way that you can have the biggest expense you have, which is your house payment, paid for before you retire, because that alleviates a lot of debt in retirement. So if you can have your house paid for before you retire, if you have a $1,500 house payment, you've got to take $2,000 a month out of your retirement plan in order to cover that $1,500 house payment. That's $24,000 a year that, if you didn't have a house payment, you could use to cover your other necessities, which is your transportation and the food. But if you do have a house payment, then you got to cover transportation and food too. You have to have a much bigger balance in your account in order to be able to offset that. So getting rid of your debt as quickly as you can, or not creating new debt, is very, very, very important. So, but then you've got all these other things that people like to talk about is, I've got my insurance payments. Well, can I raise my deductible on my insurance? Instead of having a $250 deductible on your car insurance, well, how much would I save if I went with a $500 deductible? If you have a $500 deductible on your house payment, on your homeowner's insurance. What if I went to a $1,000 deductible on my homeowner's insurance? So there's things that you can look at in reference to the amount of insurance you have that you can reduce it by raising the deductible some. How many people in here have basic cable? Nobody, without any other upgrade channels, just basic cable. Very good. It's amazing how much extra money you're paying to have those premium channels that they're charging you a fortune for. So are they necessary? Something that we were talking about earlier, Michelle and I were talking about. There's a red box around every corner. How much is a red box movie?
$2.90.
Right. So you can watch a red box movie once a week or twice a week for $1.25 a night. Why do we need all these premium channels? And you're flipping through 500 channels. Is it really helping you long term? So energy consumption is huge. How many of us are still using the bright bulbs? Are you using incandescent bulbs? Are you using other kind of bulbs that burn a lot less energy? What do you set your thermostat on at home when you leave? Do you change it, or you just leave it set on 70 24/7? So there's new thermostats that you can get that automatically adjust those types of things to reduce your energy consumption. And then also clothing. How much do we spend on clothing? And I'm not going to get into that one because I always get in trouble when I start talking about clothing. Other expenses, going out to movies, non-essentials. Golf is a great non-essential that some of us are not very good at. Paying down your debt is the most important thing. So refinancing your house. But there's a lot of different ways, if you'll just take the time to think about it, of how can I reduce some of the expenses I currently have, or get those expenses paid for more quickly by refinancing them, because interest rates are super low right now. So the ability to refinance some of your higher rate interest cards, or getting out of those interest cards, or consolidating debt is not always a bad thing, as long as you don't use the extra money that you get from savings to create more debt. So the ultimate goal is to try to reduce your expenses so to give you a comfort level. So many of my clients thank me so much when they start creating a savings account. You don't know how good you can feel if you have $10,000 sitting over here in an account just as an emergency fund. You're not trying to make a bunch of money off of it. You're not trying to save the world with it. But if you have an emergency, to have that money available is a great peace of mind, especially for my female clients. Having that money set aside to cover expenses is very, very comforting if you can get the money set aside. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're creating a lot of stress on yourself that's going to create long-term problems from a health standpoint. So having a little bit of discretionary income set to the side and only using it for emergencies, not to buy a new car, not to do this, but just to give you the ability to fix the car you got, or to put on a new air conditioning, or to put a new roof on the house, or to pray for your kids' braces if they bust a teeth or break an arm. So having a savings account is one of my biggest things I try to get my female clients to do, strictly because they seem to need that. They need that comfort level that their nest is going to be taken care of. So this is not a very good statistic. So I don't know where you are on this list, but what does the average person have in the United States? What are they saving, or what do they have in a savings plan for retirement? 30% of Americans have less than $1,000 in a retirement account. Another 18% less than 10. So you can see the amount of people in the United States who are so inclined, based on media, based on pressure, to have the nicest this, the nicest that, and we're just not doing a great job of saving as Americans. If you go to Japan, you go to China, they have zero credit card debt. They don't believe in credit. If you can't pay for it, you shouldn't have it. So that's the biggest thing that a lot of us understand. None of us deserve anything. We really don't. It's hard for us to believe that. Nobody deserves a new car. Just because somebody gets one doesn't necessarily mean they can afford it. They're just making payments on something they really truly don't need, because as soon as you drive it off the lot, how much does that car appreciate? None. So you got to figure it out. This, and the ability to someday you're going to want to retire, so having the ability to do so strictly depends on the decisions you're making now with the money that you've been entrusted based on the position that you hold in your career. So it's kind of sad. Just an example. Who in here loves Starbucks? So if you spend $3 a day on a coffee at Starbucks, that means you spend about $1,100 a year on Starbucks coffee. Over 20 years, if you invested that money and got a 6% return off of it, would mean $46,000 to you. So in the Starbucks around me, it doesn't matter what time of day, there's a line going around that place. Same thing with fast food, same thing with you own, how many of us have satellite in our cars? And they're paying 15, 20 bucks a month, and how often are you in that car? And is that really truly worth your time to spend that kind of money just so you can listen to the same channel? And then you've got other types of subscriptions that you may have. So there's all kind of little things, if you'll do a budget and know where your money's going, that you might want to say, hey, I may not need that coffee today. Or I may not need that, that subscription to that new magazine. I can pull it up online. Most everything's available to you through the internet now. So, and Medical West almost has everywhere covered wirelessly. So I'm sure they're working hard on that. But other things to consider. Do I want an interest-only loan, and what's going to happen with that? Should I be putting my house at risk by taking a home equity or credit line just to buy more stuff? Retirement plan loans. What is the true cost of that? A lot of my clients take loans on their retirement plans because they think they're paying themselves back the interest. But if you take a loan on your retirement plan and then you can't afford to put money in, and Medical West is matching 50 cents on the dollar, and you quit making contributions to be able to make the loan payment, what is the ramifications about that? And then taking loans against your life insurance, is there going to be enough money left in that policy in order to protect your family if something does happen to you? Okay, so how do I stick to it? The hardest problem with coming up with a plan is that it takes about 90 days for the average person to change their spending habits. Most people cannot focus for 90 days. So you have to understand that if you decide that, hey, I'm going to set up a budget, it's not a quick fix. Because it takes a while to change what you're doing and how you're doing it. We as human beings are very routine. We like doing the same thing day after day after day. I'm sure all of us, when we get up in the morning, we do the exact same thing we did the morning before. Because that's just how we are. We get in a routine. I brush my teeth, I shave, I brush my hair, So it takes 90 days to change a bad habit. But once you get out of that bad habit, most of us can retain it. So you have to understand that if you are looking at something, looking at getting rid of debt, you have to set short-term goals. You can't set long-term goals. I'm going to reduce this credit card by $200 over the next 6 weeks. You reach that goal, then you go on to the next one. I'm going to reduce it by another $200. And I'm not just going to make the minimum monthly payment. So I can have another $20 to go out to dinner. I'm going to put that $20 towards this debt. Okay? So there are things that you can do that can dramatically help you stay on top of it and manage your money.
What's a tag sale?
What's what?
You said have a tag sale.
That is a great question. I have no idea. I was hoping somebody in here might be able to help me out with that.
Is that a garage sale?
And it could be, I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that one. That was stuck in there, and I was hoping y'all wouldn't notice that. That's the reason I went to the next slide.
You just go in your closet and find all the stuff with the tag still on it.
Okay, does anybody have something in their closet that still has the tag on it? All right, this is the number one killer of most of my clients. How much interest are you paying on those credit cards? And what's the potential damage that interest can do if you only make the minimum payment? So if you got an $8,000 credit card balance, you're only paying the minimum $200, it's going to take you 250 months or $5,000 in interest to pay off an $8,000 loan. So you ended up paying over $13,000 for an 8% interest loan. And how many months is 250? So same thing if you continue to make at an 18%, at a 28%, getting rid of high interest credit cards is killing our society. These payday loan places, are really taking advantage of people. So they want you to pay the minimum payment. Why would they not? They make $5,000 off loaning you $8,000, or they make $11,000 off your $8,000. They're doubling their money. So that's the reason there's one on every corner. They wouldn't be one on every corner unless it was beneficial for them, not beneficial for you. So if you take advantage of those places, you need to be careful, because if you don't pay it off, you'll never get it paid off. Minimum payments are a terrible thing. So if you use your credit card, try to pay the credit card off every month. Or you can get a smaller balance on your credit card. Just because the credit card company says, we're going to give you a $12,000 balance or $5,000 balance, you can limit it. You say, no, I want a $1,000 balance. And that way it keeps you from running credit card debt up. You don't have to take the balance that they give you. You can say, I only want a $500 balance. Once it gets to $500, you can't make any more charges on it. So just because they say, that you can get as high a balance as you want, you don't necessarily need to take it. And then systematically get rid of that credit card debt. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey when it comes to this, because he doesn't beat around the bush. And I love saying this to my clients. None of us deserve anything. So thinking that, I'm going to get a credit card and I'm going to have something nice, well, guess what you have to pay for once you get something nice? You got to pay for it. So, just because you have a credit card doesn't mean you need to use it. So these are just some good ideas to help get rid of some of the debt that you have so that you can put some emergency money away. And there's nothing wrong with going to seek help. How many of us have been to a doctor? How many of us have been to an attorney? How many of us have gone to school to learn a trade? We're all about needing help. If you can't control your expenses, there are places that can help you consolidate that debt and help you get it taken care of. So there's nothing embarrassing about having done something that you regret and then trying to get out of that situation, not continuing to live in that situation. So seeking professional help is a good thing. So just because you get yourself in a bad situation doesn't mean you have to continue to dwell in it. So there are things that you can do. You can get rid of old tax debt. You just need to be able to talk to somebody who really knows what they're doing to help you handle those situations. And there are good non-for-profit organizations out there that can help you get rid of that just don't turn around and get yourself back in it again. So there's nothing wrong with seeking professional help if you have the need for it. All right. So in order to prepare for tomorrow, we only have 3 things that we can utilize once we create a savings account. Okay? You have the money that goes in there, you have the time till when you want to use it, and you have the investment that you put that money into. So those are the only 3 ways that you can accumulate wealth. Either put money in, give that money time to grow, or find a good investment for that money to be in. So when you're looking at planning or looking at savings or looking at putting money away, those are the only 3 tools you really have in preparing for tomorrow. And this is one of my favorite things, and all y'all need to write this down. Because when you're looking at it or thinking about it, and I'm going to give this, everybody that signs in, I'm going to send this to them just for future reference. But if you give me $1,000 today, okay, and you say, Frank, how long is it going to take for that $1,000 to grow to $2,000? Great question. Thanks for asking that question. It depends on how much interest you're actually earning. So if you give me $1,000 and I can earn you an 8% return, whatever the interest rate you make, however many times it goes into 72 is how long it takes for your money to double. And that's just a quick, easy formula, and it works. So if you give me $1,000, I earn you 8%, 9 years later, I will give you back $2,000. Okay? So if you only make 4%, 4 goes into 72 18 times. So if you give me $1,000 and I only earn you a 4% return, 18 years later, I will give you back $2,000. So this is a very good tool for you to understand for those people who are super conservative, that if you're only earning 4% and you give me $1,000, 18 years later, how many 18 years do we have? Not too many. So that's the reason I try to get my clients to invest in investments that are a little bit more aggressive, to try to help them grow their investments faster, because you only have so much money you can put in a retirement plan. You need to make sure that that money is someplace that can benefit you. You don't want your money just sitting on the sidelines. Now, for some people who can't handle volatility, you may want to have it in that more conservative investment, but you want your money working for you. You don't want it sitting on the sidelines. You don't want your best player sitting on the sidelines while you got other people out there doing things they shouldn't be doing. So your money is very important to you, and it needs to be invested wisely. So the rule of 72 is a great tool. So if all of your money with this hospital that you're currently with is invested in a stable value account making 3%, it takes 24 years for that money to double. So you need to make sure that you're looking at your retirement plan and you're investing your assets wisely in order to get it to grow. But again, it has to be based on your personality and what fits into what you want to accomplish. So all this to be said is, all I want you to try to do is set some short-term goals. Look at your expenses, find out where your money, how much money's coming in, find out what your expenses are, and then try to reduce those so that you can create or do some of these things. You can create an emergency fund, you can pay off some debt. If you don't have any savings, you can't pay off that existing debt. So then it allows you to set intermediate term goals, then it allows you to set long-term goals. So by starting with small things and getting some of your debt paid for, you'll be amazed at how much better not only do you feel, but your long-term finances will feel as well. So set reachable goals, get everything paid off, start planning, and then continue to do so for the rest of your career, and then you will be able to retire one day without any debt. So, any questions? I was kind of rushed. I was trying to make sure I got everything that I wanted to say in. So if anybody wants me to go back to any particular slide, I would love to do it. And I'm going to be sending you all some information. If you're not clients of mine and I don't have you in my system, if you could write your name and address down for me. But most everybody in here, I think, are clients of mine or are in the pension plan. So I can pull up everybody's information and send them kind of a summary of everything that we went over today to get you started on getting your debt and getting on track. So,
your opinion on a lot of those big box stores with 18 and 24 months no interest plans for high dollar purchases?
I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, if they're giving you the ability to, but you have to understand, if you keep opening up those credit cards, but I mean, anytime somebody, as long as you set it up that you pay it off over that 24-month period, I don't think it's a bad deal. The problem is most people don't. They send you the statement that says you only have to pay $30, and then you've got a $2,000 new refrigerator or $1,500 new TV, and you're making those minimum payments that they send you. Well, in 24 months, you're not going to have it paid for. So, and interest is accumulating during that entire time. So, if you're only making the minimum payments, the only reason they're giving it to you 24 is if you pay it off during that 24-month period. Well, at the end of the 24-month period, if you still owe $1,500 to $1,000, there's $600 in interest over here that you've accumulated that you're going to get hit with if you don't pay it off over that 24-month period of time. So if you're a very disciplined person and you'll spread that cost over 24 months and pay it off over 24 months, I think it's a great deal. But if you're the type of person that's only going to be paying the minimum payment, and then you're going to end up getting hit not only with the $2,000 payment at the end, plus the $600 interest that's accumulated over that time, it's an awful situation. So, you know, sometimes you do need something, and as long as you pay off that item over that given period of time, I think it's a great deal to borrow somebody else's money, because they're hoping you're not going to pay it off. So I don't have a problem with that at all. I love those things. If somebody will let me buy something I need for free for 2 years, I can keep my money in the bank earning interest and then pay them back their money at the end of that period of time without incurring any financial cost. I think it's smart. But you got to be disciplined, which is hard. Because, you know, I got these other bills. Here's this only saying I need to pay $30. I'm just going to pay the $30. Good question. Any other questions?
If you have, say, $1,000, $1,500 in a couple of months, what would you suggest doing? Paying the credit card bill down? Put it in your savings or put it towards your retirement fund?
It depends on what your credit card debt is. I mean, the problem with most of my clients who pay off credit card debt is they run it right back up again. So you really haven't accomplished anything. So, you know, they use the $1,500 to pay off the credit card, and then, then they turn around and see something else they want to buy and they run it back up again. So the number one thing is you'd have to look at is how much money can I make off my savings account? How much money could I potentially make off my retirement plan? Or what is the interest rate I'm paying on the credit card? So it's not a simple question. You have to look at each of those three and see if you got a 16% credit card, you need to get rid of that thing as quickly as you possibly can. But, you know, it all depends on what bet, you know, that's a question you just have to figure out on your own. What's most beneficial for me? So, and most of it is paying off debt, it would be, but most of my clients can't just pay it off, they just run it back up again.
I don't have a total grasp on this, so first grade it for me if you can.
Yeah.
But what she made me think about was, what is the balance between trying to have something on your credit or something on debt, trying to increase your credit score versus never putting anything on a credit card? Is there's some game there that I can't ever figure out?
Well, yeah, there's a huge game there because, you know, people like you having debt. People want you, well, it depends on what your ultimate goal is with having the consumer debt. I have consumer debt and I pay it off every month because it creates a high credit score. So the higher the credit score is, if you do want to buy a car or if you do want to buy a house, and having that ability to have that great credit score is important. So consumer debt is not a bad thing as long as you pay it off every month. The problem is that most people don't pay it off every month. So all credit card companies want to know is that you can charge something and then you can pay it off. So, which will increase your credit score. So they want to see that you've had a credit card for X number of years, it's got a $10,000 balance and your balance is $1,000. If they see that you have a $10,000 balance and your balance is $10,000, that dramatically hurts your credit score. So the main thing is when you're looking at your credit score is you want to have a credit card that you charge things on, but you're paying it off each month. You're not putting more on there than you can turn around at the end of the month and pay on it. So I think credit is very important. It's just how you use that credit and how you address paying for it is a more important question. So yeah, but you know, our society is no longer who are you, it's what is your credit score. So anytime you want to buy anything, any large purchases, there is no downtown banker anymore. So, I mean, when I was brought up, my dad told me there's three people you need to know. You need to know your banker, you need to have a good CPA, and you need to have a good attorney. Those are the three things you need to have in your life. Well, the banker has pretty much gone away because the banker, the local banker that you bank with today is going to have a different name tomorrow, and it's going to be a different manager. There is no relationship in the banking business anymore. It's strictly what is your credit score is the only way. So don't have any loyalty to any bank. That bank's going to pay you what that bank thinks it can make you the most money. What most people need to understand is, if you put $10,000 in a bank, that bank can loan, that bank can loan out 10 times that amount to other people. So if you put $10,000 in a bank, you're getting 1% on it. They can turn around and take that $10,000 and loan out $100,000 at 6 and 7%. So who's coming out on that deal? The banks are. That's why there's a bank on every corner. You give them $20,000, they can loan out $200,000 at a much higher rate than they're paying you. So your loyalty when it comes to banks needs to be, who's going to pay me the most money? You need to find a bank, a credit union that's going to pay you the most. If you've got $10,000 in the bank and you just got it at Regions Bank because you've always banked with Regions Bank, and Regions Bank is paying you 0.25% on a savings account, but you can go to Charter Bank and get 1%, or go to a credit union and get 1.5%, you need to move that money. Because the bank's not there, the bank's there to make money. The bank's there not, necessarily there to help you. So anybody that's working for a bank is there because they made money off of you. So you need to do what's best for you and your money. So don't be loyal to a bank just because you've always banked with them. You got to put your money someplace where it can make you the most money. Good question. Anything else? Well, I'm here all the time. Anytime you have any questions, I'm here on Thursdays. And if there's anything I can do for any of y'all in referencing this in more detail, if you'd like to sit down and discuss your finances, I would be more than happy to sit down with you. But I am not a credit counselor. So don't expect a lot of compassion out of me when it comes to that kind of stuff. Because all I want you to do is get rid of it. Because it's really, 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 it's stressful how much TV advertisements affect what we do on a daily basis. Okay? So we need to understand that we earn X, we need to spend less than X so that we can put some money over here for savings. Okay? So if you make less money, you just have to spend less money. And you just need to live in a manner that's going to benefit you long term. Thank y'all very much. I appreciate y'all's time.